Good afternoon. I'm going to call the regular council meeting of Warwick Township Council, the date being August 11th, 2026. Note there is a time change today and we're starting at 1 o'clock. I'll ask council, does anybody have disclosure of pecuniary interest or conflict of interest at this time? Seeing none. Also like to welcome everybody that's joining us through our YouTube link today. And now I'm going to do the acknowledgement of ancestral lands. We acknowledge that the Township of Warwick is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, as well as the many Indigenous nations in Ontario, whose footsteps have marked them for centuries. We also wish to acknowledge that we are situated on Treaty 29 and Treaty 25 territories signed by Chippewa chiefs and offer our respect and gratitude for these lands. Council, I'll take you to number 5 on the agenda if I could. That's minutes of the previous council meeting, the date being July 27, 2026. Does anybody have any questions on those minutes? Clarifications? No? I would entertain a motion then. Councilor Morris is making the motion, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And there was no business arising from those minutes, Madam Deputy Clerk? Well, thank you very much. We'll go to number 7 on the agenda if we could. Schedule meetings and events. Basically an FYI 7A. Anybody have any questions on 7A? No? And then we'll go to 7B. Again, basically an FYI, unless somebody has something they want to mention. No? Okay, well, thank you. Let's go to number 8 on the agenda if we could. Councilors' commitments and items. Does anybody have anything they wish to add to councilor commitment dates at this time? No? Very good. Thank you. If there's any change, please let the deputy clerk know. I'm going to go to councilors' items verbal reports. So I'm going to start with the deputy mayor today. Deputy Mayor Kallenberg, did you have anything for today?
No, I did not. Thank you.
Councilor Manning?
Yeah, I just have one quick thing. It was more for Ryan, but it's more of a heads up than anything. On the weekend at Cornfest, I noticed that the water fill fountain up at the by the pavilion is not working very well. So just if his staff can have a look at that at some point, if we could pass that along to Ryan.
Okay, we'll note that for the record and get a response. Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Westgate.
Just when I get in here tonight, yeah, I had a phone call from the Horticultural Society. Forest Ag had supplied a tent up at the hall for people to eat under. It was a good idea, it went over good. But they're short $337 approximately. They were wondering if council could cover that.
Councillor Westgate, would you make that a motion and then we could...
Yeah, I guess I better make that a motion or nobody.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Morris. Any discussion on that? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. The tent was very much appreciated by everybody that was up there, that's for sure. So thank you. Anything else, Councillor Westgate?
No, nothing else today.
Mr. Morris?
I have nothing today. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I do have, I want to do a great big thank you to the Cornfest committee, the volunteers, the organizers for putting on another sensational event again this year. I know everybody in this room, all of the councilors here were part of it and up there and volunteering in some cases as well. So I just wanted to congratulate everybody on a job well done. They put on a great event every year and it takes a lot of people to make it happen. So thank you to the committee and congratulations on another good event. The only thing I'm going to ask is I'm going to ask Kyle for a construction update on the intersection and where we maybe are now. And I know it's hard, we're not done yet, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but Kyle, maybe if you could just give us a bit of an update. Lots of people are asking about it. And if you could maybe give us a general update, that would be appreciated.
Thank you. Yes, currently everything is on schedule with respect to the intersection. They have up until September 8th to open the intersection up for north-south traffic. And currently curb was poured last week with sidewalks being poured this week and setting up for paving the following week. So everything seems to be going according to schedule. And once we get a formal update, I'll pass that along as well.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. Just one other thing I'm going to mention. I had an opportunity to meet with MPP Pinsonneau last week on the natural gas expansion piece that we've been looking for some results on for quite some time. Had a very productive meeting with them. It's still very much there and active, our requests, and we continue to hope for some good news on that. But I just wanted to update the public that we have not forgotten about it. We continue to to advocate on behalf of the community. And let's be honest, we make a very good business case, and Enbridge has been a good partner as well. So I'm hopeful that we'll see something here in the next little while. We'll just have to wait and see. So I just wanted to make that clear to the public that we continue to still advocate for that project. And it's always been a priority of council to get that expansion. So just wanted to let everybody know. So that's all I have. So thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Put the microphone back on here. So we're going to go to number 9. It's staff items. And I actually asked for this dust control update to be put on the agenda for this meeting. So I don't know, Kyle, did you want to speak to this, or do you want me to? So I've had some calls from some residents on some of our side roads. And when I say some of our side roads, I'm talking about the ones that have been impacted by the construction at Confederation and Nauvoo. Lots of the trucks are bypassing the area, which we want them to, but they're not taking the routes that have been outlined by the county. And they're going down a lot of our dirt roads, and they're causing an awful lot of dust. You get a big truck rolling down side roads that aren't really designed for that kind of traffic. It causes an issue. Marcona Road is one that I've heard a couple people mention, and they've asked if there's any way they could get some extra dust control to offset some of the extra dust that they've been having. So I said I would bring it to council today. And maybe I can ask Kyle. I'm not surprising Kyle by this. We did talk about it. Kyle, maybe you could give us an idea what we'd be looking at from a costing standpoint roughly, and what your feelings are on this.
Thank you. Yes, so approximately it'd be between $5,000 and $10,000 to get we'd have to get a transport truck load of liquid calcium to do this, plus manpower to spot grade in advance of it, and run traffic control while we're doing it. I have no timing yet on availability of tankers. Our window was for the spring. We've used up our window. This would be in addition to our planned dust control. So I couldn't commit to a specific timing for a spot application to support this. My preference would be to not do spot dust control right now, as we're getting close to the end of the season as it is. And the crews are going to be opening the roads up, getting it ready for the school year and getting rid of potholes. And that will basically reduce the effectiveness of the calcium if it was applied at this time.
Thank you, Kyle. Anybody else want to ask? Yes, Councillor Morris.
First School Road's getting a ton of transport traffic too, but I have noticed the dust isn't so bad and the potholes are getting bad, but it's slowing down the transports. So I don't know which is the better of here. They're going right from Churchill right through to Zion and going around that way. It's been the truckers' communication, obviously, but I got mixed feelings on whether to put dust control on or to grade it or not. The potholes, I drove it today, aren't that bad. The only question I do have about Arcona Road, were we not doing something to that overpass?
Go ahead, Kyle.
We didn't include that in this year's, but we did it on the road tour to identify it as a spot, but we didn't incorporate that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Manning.
Yeah, that bylaw we recently passed for township roads, was that just for in town, or did that include the side roads as well?
For clarification on that, I think I know the answer. I'm going to turn it to Kyle.
It was written in a way that we can add additional township roads to the bylaw if necessary. It requires signage to be put in place prior to the bylaw coming in effect, so we'd have to put additional signs up on other roads if we want to apply that.
So it would take a few weeks for it to get done. The project will almost be finished by then, probably, right?
We would have to order more signs in, so it would be at least 3 to 5 business days to get them in and then installed. So it would be a week at a minimum.
Right. Then we'd have to wait for our next council meeting to add the addition to the bylaw itself.
The way it's worded, I believe it would be in effect as soon as the signs are posted. But we would have to get them and install them, so it would be approximately a week to get into position.
Yeah, so I'm not proposing that necessarily. I'm just weighing that as an option. That's all. Just curious.
Councillor Morris.
Yeah, as far as the signs on First School, I can't really say for Arcona, but on First School Road, I don't think I would yet. It's a flat level road. Part of it now it needs to be redone, but part of it is tar and chip. And the other part is it's got an excellent crossing. I'm afraid if we post that road, they'll go to the next side road, which is not a very good crossing. And my neighbors might not like it, but I think we should leave for school as is.
Counselor Westgate.
I think by the time Kyle can get a truckload of calcium out there, even Brian, the construction is gonna be done in a week or two after that. And we should be starting to grade the roads at that time, so I can't see much use in putting the dust control on right now.
I agree with you, Counselor. I feel like it would have been more effective if we had applied it closer to the start of the construction window. So I guess as an action for myself, I'd look to next year planning potentially more dust control, like a secondary dust control application. If I bring that proposal to you guys at budget time.
Counselor Manning.
Seeing as this is a county project, is there any way we can lean on the county for their help on this?
Kyle.
It is a county-led project. We share in the cost of this project, and they have posted the proper detour signage out, and they have also provided additional signage for us at our request to encourage drivers to follow the rules, but I don't think we could pass this cost on to them.
Doesn't mean we can't try.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to raising the question about dust control and the extra dust a lot of these people have experienced. I understand timelines and all good points made, but I do feel for the people that have been seen their traffic go up probably 3 and 4 times as much. We've done everything we can in Watford proper to try to curb the issue of having, transport trucks on the residential streets and to keep people staying within the laws and regulations, blowing through stop signs and have the OPP presence. So I do feel for these people in all honesty. And there are a few areas, and I guess I would like to see us do something for them. I understand the time of year and the whole 9 yards about that, but I do think that we have a duty to make sure that we look after these people. I agree, we should have probably looked at this beforehand potentially, but that's just my comments on it. Does anybody else have any other comments? I do have a motion I want to bring forward if nobody else has any comments. No? Okay, so I've listened to everybody has to say today, and I understand the timing and all that, but we all know that the weather patterns have changed a lot in the last few years. Sometimes we get very dry weather, and sometimes we get lots of rain. This has been one of those years where we went from a very dry standpoint to all of a sudden we've had, the last 2 weeks, 3 or 4 rain days. So we've talked about dust control different times over this term of council. And what I'm proposing, and I talked to Kyle about it, is I'd like to make a motion for council's consideration to ask for a report from our public works manager on costing for a second allotment of dust control for the next council to consider at budget time. I think we've got to that point. Some years it's wet, some years you might not need the second allotment, but I think we owe it to the people we represent to have it in the next budget for consideration and potential approval, and then it's there if it's needed. Because when it's dry and we go through all those dry days, the roads get really, really bad. So I did talk to Kyle before I brought this motion forward to ask him how he felt about it. He agrees that we should bring a report back and consider it, because again, we get into some years where it's really bad and other years you don't. So the motion would be to ask for a report to look at potentially doing it, the pros and cons and the costing, and it would be something that would be considered at budget time by the next council. If I could get a seconder to that. Second by Councillor Morris. Any discussion on that motion? Did staff capture that motion clearly enough? I know I was a little bit all over the page with it. Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's move on if we can. We're going to go to delegations. Our first delegation today is we have John here, and John's going to deliver our 2025 financial statement from MNP. John, if you please come up and join us, that would be great. We'll give you a chance to get settled in when you get up there. You remember how it works? You just push, when you're ready, you push the microphone and you. We have everything, I believe, Jessica.
Yeah, you start at page.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. What I wanted to do this year, a little different than just running through the financial statements on their own. We did incorporate an audit findings report to council that does, of course, include some of the financial figures, some of the statements, and then kind of roll through what we do want to disclose as part of the at this part of the audit. So as that's loading up, I'll go through a few of the elements and don't need to kind of go through everything. I'm sure everyone took the time to read through the report as best they could, but really at the end of the day, the opinion as expected is unmodified. So that is what we are proposing here with these draft statements for approval. And, there was no concerns over the course of the audit. Some of the items that we want to touch on, I'll get to in a sec, but as far as the engagement status, where we're at is approval by council for the statements at this point, receipt of the signed management representation letters, which I have with me here. And then we did have to complete our subsequent events procedures right up until today, the acceptance of the statements. And we'll touch on one element related to the consolidation of the laws that was disclosed in the statements. So from there, the independent auditor's report, again, there's no unforeseen complications. Our audit report will provide an unmodified opinion, and the draft copy is here to sign off on. Some of the risk areas and responses, and if we're following along, I don't have page numbers, but risk area and responses, just quickly to touch on that, there's two areas of the audit that, as part of every audit, we do want to disclose what we do for management override of controls and user charges as part of a presumed risk of fraud. And again, it's presumed, and it's what procedures and what did we do as part of the audit to ensure that we did collect all the audit evidence we need and maintaining that professional skepticism. So you can see the responses and conclusions there and the extra work we did. We can identify that no issues were identified with that testing performed. So yeah, if you're on the statements, I believe page 33. Moving on, a couple of the other items to disclose was there were no changes from the audit service plan that was presented to council at the beginning of the audit. It is this one, yeah. Just a couple slides up from here. Maybe a few more. One more. Oh shoot, maybe a couple more. One more. I guess one more. Perfect. No, I think one more. Sorry. Great. So difficulties encountered or any concerns with as we were doing the audit or the scope or any limitations, nothing there. No identified or suspected fraud, even though an audit can't be relied on to detect all instances, nothing came to our attention. And there were, again, nothing came to our attention with non-compliance with any laws or regulations. Awesome. Yeah, then the next slide. No going concern issues, no significant deficiencies in internal controls, but we weren't tasked to express an opinion on the controls, but nothing came to our attention that would show that there were any deficiencies there as we were doing the audit. And then we want to acknowledge that the cooperation and assistance received from management and the staff, there were no issues as we were working through the engagement. Couple other quick items, final materiality. We did have a number of about 677,000, and then there was no change from the original proposed amount there. We'll see in a minute here because we did have some unadjusted differences that we have to account for, but they were all well under this materiality amount. Okay, and then looking at significant accounting policies and practices, so the estimates, the disclosures made in these statements, everything was appropriate based on the accounting standards we needed to apply to these financial statements, which are those public sector accounting standards. So all of that was appropriate, and we do touch in a couple of our appendices the work that we do in the financials. And then we want to clearly confirm to council that myself, anyone on the team that was working on the financial statements was independent from the township. Okay. So the other significant differences that we want to touch on are in Appendix C. We'll get there in a few moments. All right, so from there, the audit process, we don't need to dig into that too much, but at the end of the day, all the evidence and all the details that were received for these consolidated financial statements were based on those accounting principles and estimates that we were using. You can see a bit of the list there, and again, at the end of this, there'll also be some other disclosure items. What we always like to say is if council feels like communication directly to us as the external auditors, if there were any, direct questions or anything as part of the audit process that was a question, definitely let us know. We can clarify. But of course, we are auditing the financial statements prepared by your management, and that's how that process works. So Appendix A, a little more detail around the audit process. And then we get to some financial statement numbers on the next page. The first one would be the statement of financial position. So this is outlining our financial assets and non-financial assets and our accumulated surplus overall. So you can see with the kind of two columns there, a comparative with 2024 year end to 2025. A couple of the items to highlight. So the total financial assets, when we add up the items, cash, investments, receivables, and all of those items, we are down 2.2 million roughly. And where that's made up for is essentially in the non-financial assets. On our liability side, we're, as of December 31st, picking up our bank indebtedness, any payables and accrued liabilities based on the cutoff work we do. And of course, the bigger item is the municipal debt. And you can see the reduction there in the debt being paid down, and the asset retirement obligation identified as part of being consolidated with laws. So the total liabilities against our total financial assets has us at about $3.4 million, down from last year's just over 5. But then we see a significant increase in our tangible capital assets. That's up just slightly under $4 million overall. So our accumulated surplus with those two positions is about $2.3 million of an increase. And we can see what it's made up of because you do have some remeasurement gain or losses that we do record based on some of the investments, how they're invested. So there is that special report we do. So the difference in the years accounted for. So overall, the accumulated surplus of $74,847,000 up from last year's $72,525. And we'll see a little more detail there on the note and how that's broken down. The next page shows the consolidated statement of operations. So our revenues by source and our expenses essentially by department, with the budgeted column there. And again, this is always based on our PSAB requirements. So, it does not take into account certain items like paying down debt, capital, which we'll see in a few moments. There was a significant acquisition of capital. So the annual surplus before any changes in the equity of laws was 2.3 million compared to last year's 3.2. There was no effective change in laws because the flow adjustment didn't have a change. So overall, you can see where our increase in the annual surplus added to last year's accumulated surplus gets us to that 74 million. And then you can see the comparatives from the actuals from the prior year overall. And based on the work that's done, all of this goes into our financial information report that's prepared for the province, and we are, getting those numbers out of there that kind of break out between these departments and between these sources. So everything on this end, adding up to that 2.3 million of annual surplus. So then from there, our accumulated surplus note 17. It's a kind of a big note that kind of shows a breakdown of the equities and what was set aside by council for reserves, and then the obviously specified reserves between water and sewer. So again, with 2024's comparative on the right, we start with our unfinanced areas, but then our township deficit. So a couple items to focus on in here. The township deficit, last year we did not kind of clear to our, essentially the capital projects line item would be our reconciling item. So in 2025, the position was to take the township deficit for all the capital expenditure as well as the prior period and have that reflected with the capital projects reserve in the year. And that would have been allocated to those projects that were done. And the next flip shows over, the 8 million or so of acquisition of capital. Our other equities on the surplus line items, we have our Economic Development Corporation, we have our equity in Blue Water Power, and then our unfunded, which is essentially one-to-one with our debt So that's offsetting our debt. So with that, we have about 71 million of our invested in capital assets added to that. And then we have below the reserves set aside by council. And we do have a big decrease there for what was utilized out of the capital projects. So 10.7 down to 6.1 million for the total reserves. And then we have our reserves for water and sewer allocated separately. And overall, we get back to that bottom line. A little hard to see on the slide, but 74,847,000. So that's the breakdown of the accumulated surplus. And then I want to finalize, for numbers anyway, the breakdown of what changed in the capital assets. So by projects, and obviously significant projects were put in use for the year, between put in use and set up and work in progress. But we can see additions of about 8.8 to almost 8.9 million. I wanted to highlight what were disposals and amortization. So outside of those two items, there was a significant increase in our major capital projects and a bit of a list as to where those were between the water main, Burnham Road and all those items, building and building improvements. So a breakdown here to show what was spent in the year for capital assets. The next few slides are other so the summary of unadjusted differences. We did have that detail related to our contingency with laws that isn't recorded in the ledger. Our some cutoff from a grant that needed to be isolated for, and then the surplus difference related to the laws consolidation. So all of this again was under our materiality amount, and we do set those up as unadjusted differences. The next couple pages, I won't have to go through those whole lists, but essentially what we are communicating to council at the beginning of the audit, so the audit service plan inquiry during the audit, whether that did come from council through management or right now through our audit findings. So if there was any other follow-up looking at this list and suggesting that we needed to provide any other communications, definitely let us know. But other than that, I think I'll leave it for some questions at this point, if there were any.
Thank you for your presentation, John. Does anybody have any questions for John today? Trevor, are you on the line? I see Trevor's joining us, but I don't know if Trevor's can hear us or not. Trevor?
Sorry, I just had to take myself off mute. Yes, I heard it.
No problem. Do you want to add anything, any comments to John's presentation?
No, I think John hit all the salient points. We had the most significant capital year in the history, and because of it, investments went down to fund the capital. We're going to see more of that this year because we also have another couple of significant capital issues, but I think we will be more stable with our investment portfolio.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody on council have any questions before we move on? Anybody on staff have any questions? No, seeing none. Very good. So John, I think what we usually do at this point in time, I'll let you make any last minute comments you want to make, and then I think we need a motion to approve the financials. So I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, just a part of those last minute comments. The financial information return is something that's in progress. We're hoping to hit you by the end of the month getting that submitted. So that would cover off the compliance piece. Of course, any other compliance, payroll and HST and stuff like that as part of the audit, we do that work. So really just the representation letters here for signature. I guess I can leave them here for Trevor to kind of follow up with. And then other than that, everything as part of 2025 year end, other than the Economic Development Corp, we'll follow up with that as necessary. The main audit and the trust funds as well are all completed.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Trevor, any closing comments?
Not for me. Johnny hit the points.
Very good. Trevor, would you like to see us? Go ahead.
I would like to say one thing. In preparing for the audit this year, we restructured everything whereby I got to move a lot of it off my desk. So I'm going to thank both Sylvie and Maddie for their assistance in getting this done. We're earlier than last year, and in my opinion, it's a more thorough and deeper audit that we've gone through in the past.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Trevor, I think probably, do you want a motion to approve the financials, or do you want to do it later on after you've had a second chance to look at them?
No, I've looked at them enough in the last couple of weeks. Just if council's comfortable, please approve, and we can get everything signed and returned.
Right. Very good. The only comment I have is that we have reserves for a reason. We put them aside for projects and things, and we did have a big year this year when it comes to capital items, but things were much needed. And also with the fact that we purchased this building, again, just reflects on how you can utilize reserves and trying to get things done. That's my only comment. So, council, I would ask if anybody would like a motion to approve the financials. Moved by Councillor Manning, seconded by Councillor Morris. All in favor? That's carried. Well, thank you, John. If you want to leave that stuff behind, we'll make sure Trevor gets it and we'll,
Ready to go?
thank you. Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate you. Okay, council, we're going to move on to 10B. And I believe Alex is joining us for that. Is Alex come online? Very good. So Alex is going to be representing Peter Pickfield today, and it's a presentation of the EA comments from the PRT committee. So Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good, Alex. Alex, you're no stranger to this council chamber. I'm going to turn the microphone over to you and you can make your presentation. If we have any questions, we'll chirp in and ask them at the appropriate time. So the floor is yours, Alex.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for having me again, Council. I'm speaking to two matters today. So the first one I think on the agenda is the proposed landfill expansion, and then we'll be covering the TRT's annual review of landfill operations.
Is correct.
Okay, perfect. So as Council will be familiar with at this point, the landfill is undergoing an environmental assessment process for a proposed vertical expansion of the landfill, which would also extend the landfill's life. The township has been working with a series of what we call the peer review team, a series of consultants who reviewed every part of this environmental assessment, a study process along the way. And that includes before the study process began, right? So we provided comments on what does the structure of these studies even look like? So we're now at the final stage when all that study is complete, at least from WM's perspective, and it has been submitted as this very large report to the Ministry of the Environment for approval. The Ministry of the Environment has requested that all interested agencies, which includes the township, of course, provide any comments before August 14th. We have prepared a draft letter that has been sent to council in draft that would be sent by the township, reflecting the PRT's review of the environmental assessment that was submitted to the Ministry of the Environment for approval. So this letter is quite lengthy. I won't go through the whole thing, but I do want to summarize some of the key findings. I'll read the resolution that we're proposing, and then I'll be open to any questions from council. So throughout the entire process, the PRT had a number of recommendations throughout the process that were not accepted by WM. I'll go through a couple of the key ones. In terms of air quality, the PRT has, for about a decade, recommended that the landfill do continuous dust monitoring on site. So that's as part of the annual review process. We've recommended that. And every year, WM has said that it might consider that as part of the EA study process. Well, that's now, and I can tell you that real-time dust monitoring is not proposed. According to our expert, that is a problem, and we continue to recommend that that be added. It's a problem because there are a large number of air quality exceedances, which I will get to when I talk about the annual review of the landfill. But suffice it to say, it's an important recommendation that is a long-standing recommendation. In terms of traffic impacts, our engineer recommended that WM enter into a haul route agreement, which, among other things, would ensure that trucks don't travel through Watford to get to the landfill. And WM has not agreed to enter into that agreement. So that is something that we're recommending that has not been implemented. In terms of ecology, WM has a number of conclusions in its report that are not backed by the studies that it has undertaken. So one of the key analyses that was not done is comparing the potential impact on wildlife with the pre-existing wildlife conditions before the landfill expansion was approved, and I think it was about 2008. And the last key one, but certainly not the least, there are a number, this is just the one I want to highlight, is our landfill engineer has some concerns with the calculations that were done regarding the leachate and gas collection piping systems, and regarding how they'll handle the additional weight of the proposed vertical expansion. I will say that WM has been responsive to this in providing some answers to questions that our engineer has posed, but he remains unsatisfied that the calculations are there to be comfortable that they can come to the conclusions that they come to. So that's a really important one that has not been resolved from our team's perspective. So in addition to those technical deficiencies, the landfill, in my opinion, as a lawyer for the township, is contravening two key legal requirements. And I think that needs to be highlighted in the township's submission to the Ministry of the Environment. First, through the annual review process, and I'll elaborate on this later, WM is required to provide information to allow the township to conduct a financial audit. This is required by the host municipality agreement. That's a contract between WM and the township that has existed for many years. Specifically, Section 5.2 of this contract says WM has to provide the documents and financial records that we need to audit their financial operations, and WM has provided some, but has refused to provide some of the requested documents. The second contravention I want to highlight is the landfill is required through its current environmental compliance approval under condition 7.18 to maintain a leachate head level of 300 millimeters or under. So the environmental compliance approval is a document that is with the Ministry of the Environment, a series of conditions that WM must meet if it is able to keep operating the landfill. Leachate levels, as we've talked about a number of times with council, it's when rain or precipitation falls in the landfill, it is contaminated. This is a normal thing to happen. But when that water level rises to a certain amount, it has to be removed, because if the water level that has these contaminants is too high, it has the potential to break out and cause contamination beyond the area that it's acceptable to have this leachate. So in the last year, and by that I mean 2025, 2 of the 4 monitors that monitor the leachate head exceeded the value of 300 millimeters every day that there were measurements. 1 of the other 4 exceeded it for 292 days of the year. And these monitors had a number of malfunctions throughout the year as well. So the data, I would say, is not complete. Now, this is not an item that I included in the draft letter. If council supports it, I'd like to add that in to the draft letter. But based on all this, it's our recommendation that the township voice its opposition to the landfill expansion until these issues are addressed. And that is what this letter sets out. I have a resolution for council, a proposed resolution for council, which I will read, and then I'm happy to answer any questions that council might have about this. So the proposed resolution was in the agenda. It reads, whereas the Ontario Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, MECP, has requested agency comments on the Waste Management of Canada Corporation, WM, Environmental Assessment, EA, for the proposed Twin Creeks Landfill Optimization Project on or before August 14th, 2026. And whereas township staff, in conjunction with the township peer review team, have prepared a draft submission document in response to this MECP request. And whereas the draft township submissions have been received and reviewed by Township Council, be it resolved that Mayor Case and the Township CAO be authorized to finalize and submit to MECP the township submissions on the WM proposed landfill optimization EA on or before the MECP filing deadline of August 14th, 2026. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that council might have.
All right. Thank you very much, Alex, for your presentation. Does anybody here have any questions for Alex on the resolution or any of the other content he's offered up today? This is a timing thing, as we all know. This needs to get done today. I think we have to the 12th or the 13th, Alex, to get this in.
The 14th.
So, 14th. Anybody have any questions at all? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve. Deputy Mayor is making that motion, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks, Alex. We'll go on to the next one, if we could, the TRT presentation, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Case. So again, council will be familiar with this annual review. Our firm leads that team of consultants who review the annual report, which is a very lengthy document of science and reporting produced by WM at the end of every year. And again, just to be clear, we're talking about the year 2025 now. There's a bit of a lag for the report to be prepared and for the team to review it. So in past years, And I would say, especially in recent years, I've been able to say that the landfill is operating in accordance with all its legal requirements. I am not able to say that today. Again, for those two key contraventions that I highlighted under the previous item of the agenda, but I want to expand on one of them. That first one is 5.2 of the host municipality agreement, which requires WM to provide financial records and documents to the township so that you can audit their operations over the last year. Now, this is important because the township needs to do this audit in order to ensure WM is complying with its financial obligations under the host municipality agreement. The township made a list of the records it was looking for. Some of them have been provided, but WM has refused to provide all of the information we requested. I want to be really clear in saying this is very clearly, explicitly contravening the host municipality agreement. It's not a gray area, and this is a binding contract between the township and WM. The result of this is a problem. There is no financial audit of WM's operations this year. That, at least by my knowledge, is the first in history. This is a big problem. And we're recommending on the record in open council that the township seek legal advice regarding enforcement of the host municipality agreement. The second key operating requirement WM is failing to meet is that section 7.18 of the environmental compliance approval. I just talked about that, so I won't go through it again, but this is the one that relates to the leachate levels, the leachate head being under 300 millimeters. Just for a bit of added context here, it is frequently the case that WM exceeds this by a small amount. It's not abnormal to exceed this sometimes because when there's a huge rain event, that can drastically, very quickly increase the amount of leachate temporarily. Now, of course, the response to that is to remove leachate so that that level goes down. WM is saying that the increased leachate head is a result of precipitation events. And I agree. That's just a fact. That is how it works. That's an explanation, but it's not an excuse for the scale of exceedances. Removing leachate is easy. It just comes at a cost. And in the TRT's opinion, WM should not be allowed to continue to contravene this ECA by failing to remove a sufficient amount of leachate so that this head level is not exceeded for the majority of the year. Now, in addition to those two very key items, there are a number of other items that require WM's attention. I'll just highlight three here. In terms of air quality, the landfill has, at least by my records, a new high number of air quality exceedances. That's 24 exceedances over 14 days. This is the very reason that our consultant has recommended real-time dust monitoring for years. That recommendation has not been accepted. And in his opinion, having that technology would allow us to allow the landfill to lower the number of exceedances because it could figure out exactly where are these exceedances coming from and when, right? We know live when there is an event, and then you can say, what's going on in the landfill? Is it construction? Are they, maybe they need to put more water on the road? You know, where is this coming from? That's why the real-time data is so important. Council will be familiar with the automobile shredder residue, which has been a historical issue with the landfill. This is a very small kind of confetti-shaped shredded pieces of automobile, and they sometimes get stuck in truck tires and get tracked out of the landfill. Historically, we've seen a pattern of that happening, this ASR, automobile shredder residue, getting tracked off-site. Then WM voluntarily discontinues its use, and of course the issue disappears, which makes sense. Only to a few months later resume its use. You see the track out again. This cycle has continued every year, and our team is saying, so right now there is no ASR being used as cover, which is a good thing. Our team is saying, if you're going to continue to use it, like if you're going to resume it, we're suggesting a monitoring program be put in place for the specific contaminants that we think are more common to occur in that specific type of waste. So that's the recommendation there. The last one I want to cover is for landscaping. There are a number of trees that need to be replaced. Some of them have been ongoing issues for years. So for all of these landscaping items, the landfill is out of its warranty period for some of these trees. But the problem from our experts' opinion is that some of them were not properly replaced within the warranty period. So we're asking that that be done in order to maintain that facade you see when you drive past the landfill and in the park nearby the landfill. So there's a number of smaller things. Again, I won't go through each nitty-gritty one, but those are some of the key ones I wanted to bring to council's attention. Because of that, we have a slightly different resolution than previous years. It's a long one. I apologize in advance. I'll read it out and then I'm open to any questions from council. So this resolution is on the final page of the memo to council that we prepared. It reads, whereas the Township of Warwick Technical Review Team, TRT, has now completed its 2026 review of the Waste Management of Canada WM Twin Creeks Landfill Report for the 2025 reporting year, and whereas Township Council have now reviewed and considered the draft 2026 TRT review and recommendations with respect to this matter, be it resolved that the Township hereby directs Garrett Pickfield LLP, its environmental solicitors, to forward a copy of the draft Township of Warwick 2026 TRT review on to WM for review, discussion with TRT members, and WM response. And that Township Council directs that the following be requested of WM by letter from Garrett Pickfield LLP to WM on behalf of the Township. 1. That WM implement all the recommendations of the landscape inspection report included as attachment 1 to the draft 2026 TRT review. 2, that WM review and address all the specific comments and recommendations set out in the draft TRT review pertaining to ground and surface water quality, landfill engineering, noise, and air quality and dust management provided as attachments 2 through 5 of the draft TRT 2026 review. 3, that WM provide financial information requested in order to allow the TRT to conduct its financial peer review as required by clause 5.2 of the host municipality agreement. And that the Township directs staff to seek legal advice regarding WM's breach of clause 5.2 of the host municipality agreement by failing to provide financial disclosure requested by the TRT. And that the Township directs that WM's response to the draft 2026 TRT review and the above requests, together with a final 2026 TRT report, be brought forward to Township Council at a future meeting for council consideration. So thank you for letting me get through that. I'm happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Alex. Council, does anybody have any questions for Alex on the proposed resolution? Let me just say I'm very disappointed in WM for not providing the information around the financial pieces that we've always got in the past, and I don't understand why they'd be dragging their feet. So I think this motion is very fitting to make at this particular time based on where we are with WM right now. So I will ask the question, Council, how do you wish to deal with this proposed resolution? Councillor Morris?
I make a motion to pass it.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Manning. Any further discussion of any? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Alex. Anything else to add before we let you go?
No, thank you, Mayor Case, and thank you, council, for considering this. I do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Alex. Have a good day. 11. We're going to move forward to number 11, the consent agenda. Anybody have anything on the non-action correspondence today they'd like to highlight? Seeing none, very good. We have the semi-annual fire and rescue update. We also have our Director of Emergency Services, Brad Goodhill, with us today. Anybody have any questions for Brad on this? Yes, Councillor Morris.
Recall. There's 9 turnout out of Warwick and 10.5 out of Watford. But we have 22 firefighters on each station, I understand.
Brad?
Yes, Councilor Morris, actually 25 at each station. And the bulk of these calls are coming through the daytime.
Okay.
Therefore, we're at our lowest number of potential firefighters in the areas in both stations. You will see on the 2-station response, those numbers reflect the amount of times that the second station goes to help the first station with the call, which then boosts the numbers. But when I calculated it, that 9 and 10, I kept it at the individual station only,
Okay.
not including the combination of the two stations.
Yeah, just one more point. Now, are we getting officers out too? Or have we got the right leadership there during calls?
Yeah, there's been not one call yet where there hasn't been either a chief officer or a captain at each one of the calls independently for the stations. So, yeah, I'm happy with how it's been going.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else have a question for Brad today? Brad, anything there you want to highlight?
No, you will see, if you really dug through the numbers, you'll see slightly that they don't correspond and match up evenly. There's on the first section, they're calculated from November 1st to July 21st. And then on the rest of the report, it's actually, I calculated it out through till August 1st, I believe. So there is a little bit of overlap there in numbers that don't add up completely, but it was just the two different dates that I run through when I was calculating those through. But other than that, training is going well. A lot of firemen taking extra over and above certification training. So that's positive to keep everybody moving in that direction. And past that, as I said, in the budget standpoint, you'll see that it's basically all budget items are completed. And we've done some upgrades in the Watford station. We're waiting just to finish off the meeting room stairs because they're in quite bad shape and have been for several years. So, but other than that, I believe that's all.
All right, thank you. Before I move on, anybody else have any questions for our Director of Emergency Services? No? Well, thank you very much, Brad. Let's go to 11C, Parks and Recreation Dashboard. Anybody have any questions on the Parks and Recreation Dashboard today? These dashboards are a great tool for us to keep up to date with what's going on. No questions? Yes, Councillor Morse?
Well, I guess just one thing to bring up, Ryan's had a lot of problems here with this company doing the playground. I did have a few comments over the weekend that it wasn't done. I did see them kind of working there Saturday. Did they? They did finish, it was open Sunday? Okay, I wasn't. Okay, that's good then, because he done a lot of follow-up and just glad that it was done. I didn't see it, I was working.
I was there Saturday from 11 till about 4 and they were cleaning up around 2 or 3 o'clock,
Okay,
finished
good.
it, so.
All right, thank you. I also want to thank Trevor for his involvement in getting that done as well. He got involved as well, so thank you to Trevor for doing what he did to make sure that we at least had it open for part of Corn Fest. I guess there's a lesson learned here. You have to be the greasy wheel. This was supposed to be done at the end of June. It was very disappointing it wasn't, but it's good to hear that it's up and running. They were having lots of fun Sunday when I was up there, and it's good to see. Okay, anybody else have any other questions on the rec dashboard? No? Let's go to the Public Works dashboard. Anybody have any questions on the Public Works dashboard? This particular department has been very, very busy. Any questions on that dashboard? Seeing none? Very good. I know that we've already talked, Kyle, quite a bit about what's going on. Is there anything you wish to add? If you don't, we've covered a lot of it. I understand.
I just want to mention how hard the team's working in the background for all the construction projects. There's the day-to-day maintenance activities that are still getting completed, catch basin cleanouts, tree trimming, potholes being repaired, spot grading, all those things are still going on. Sports, so the team's been very busy in addition to the large capital projects that are identified in here. That's all.
Well, I appreciate that, and our team is doing a great job, and we appreciate all your efforts. I know your phone rings probably as much as ours do during a project like this. So thank you very much for your due diligence and follow up on this project. Anybody else have any questions on the Public Works dashboard? Seeing none, okay, then I would entertain a motion to receive and file A to D if council saw fit. Deputy Mayor is making that motion, seconded by Councillor Manning. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, council, we're going to go to 12, reports and items requiring a motion. 12A is the Alt Redmond drain petition, and there is a recommendation that Warwick Township Council hereby approves the recommendation from the drainage superintendent it's just a little bit different here, just make it through the drainage superintendent I think that's a little bit of a typo. Drainage to proceed with the improvements of the Alt Redmond drain under section 78 of the Drainage Act, and that after 30 days notice to the St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority, a new report be prepared by Spreetz Associates before the work can proceed. So that's the recommendation. How does council wish to deal with the recommendation? Councillor Morris?
I move the recommendation.
Okay. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Let's go to 12B of Ken. It's the Noble Drain petition. And the recommendation is that Warwick Township Council hereby approves the recommendation from the drainage superintendent to proceed with improvement of the Noble Drain under section 78 of the Drainage Act, and that after 30 days notice to the St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority, a new report be prepared by Spreetz Associates before the work can proceed. How does council wish to deal with this particular piece of business? Councillor Manning making the motion? Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Westgate. Any further discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We're going to go to C, Noble Relief Drain. There's a recommendation that Warwick Township Council hereby approves the recommendation from the drainage superintendent to proceed with the improvements of the Noble Relief Drain under section 78 of the Drainage Act, and that after 30 days notice to the St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority, a new report be prepared by Spreetz Associates before their work proceeds. How does council wish to deal with this particular piece of business? Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Let's go to D if we could. Edward Drain. And there's a recommendation that Warwick Township Council hereby approves the recommendation from the drainage superintendent and Spreetz Associates with improvements to the Edward Drain under section 78 of the Drainage Act, and that after 30 days notice to the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, a new report be prepared by Spreetz Associates before their work can proceed. Council, how do you wish to deal with this recommendation? Councillor Manning's moving it, seconded by Councillor Morris. Any further discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. That takes us to E, council, and this is the sanitary sewer system maintenance request. And there's also a recommendation here as well that Warwick Township Council approves the sludge removal from the irrigation lead. I'm having trouble today with this wording myself. Irrigation lagoon for $78,257.10, and cleaning of the alum chamber and wet well for $5,854.49. How does council wish to deal with this recommendation? Councillor Morris.
A quick question, if Trevor's still online, does this come out of our sanitary sewer reserves, Trevor?
Trevor?
It can come out of the sanitary station reserves. We haven't taken it that far, but we can quite easily.
Follow up at all, Councillor Morris?
No, I make the motion to approve the recommendation.
Okay, do we have a seconder to the recommendation? Deputy Mayor Kallenberg, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're going to go to F if we can, council, and that's the Legion sidewalk. And there's a recommendation that Warwick Township Council approves the commemorative sidewalk design and installation by mobile estimating for $6,444 excluding HST. I think it should be maybe excluding HST. The HST would be added on, am I correct? Yes, very good. How does council wish to deal with that recommendation? Deputy Mayor is making the motion. Seconded by Councillor Westgate. Any further discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And we're going to go to G if we could, and custom pumper rescue. And there's a recommendation that Warwick Township Council direct the Director of Fire and Emergency Services to proceed with quotes for a new custom pumper rescue truck and mini rescue truck for Watford Station for the 2027 budget process, which will result in overall cost savings and with a potential delivery date of 2028. How does council wish to deal with the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Manning.
I have a question.
Second, I'll let you second it and then we'll ask for questions. Seconded by Councillor Morris. You're okay with it?
Yes.
Go ahead, Councillor
What
Morris.
is the difference between the regular rescue truck and a mini rescue truck, Brad?
So a mini rescue truck is a built on a, like a 550 Ford or a, like a 1 to 1.5 ton truck considered with a truck body, with shelving and cupboards and cupboard space accordingly. The custom cab, just so you're aware, the custom cab will be like what a city department will use, not a commercial cab like a Freightliner or International or anything like that. The turning radius of them is much tighter than what a standard chassis is, as well as cab capacity is one person greater. So we're trying to come up with a combination unit here that will do both jobs and eventually throughout the total fleet will cut down at least one truck is what the intent of this is. I've had discussions with both the station chief and the deputy chief, and they both agree that this is the right way that we should be going. So the big thing is that the emission standards engines are changing to an L10 and the current L9 engines. There's going to be at least $100,000 bump just for the engine alone, not just due to the emission standards. So there's been a lot of manufacturers that have pre-ordered these chassis. So they've got some supply that they can supply a truck at a lesser value. So that's the reason as well as the fact that the Watford pumper wasn't due to be replaced till 2030. It actually, because it's even less emission standards than what was there's a big resale value for them in the US. So we may stand to gain some good dollars on resale that way by taking it out at this time. So.
Any other questions to our Director of Emergency Services? And Trevor, any comments, being that you're the treasurer of this organization? Any comments at all?
Well, it pains me when I see the price of these vehicles, but for service of the community, the one thing I think should be emphasized is a mini rescue, as you get more and more residential growth, is going to be something that's going to be important just because it's a lot more nimble to get in and out at a quicker pace. It's something that the committee brought forward, and I thought it was a really smart option to look at, and particularly at this time, given the cusp of where we're going.
Thank you. I'll open up one more time. Anybody else? Comments or questions? Okay, we have a mover and a second. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Madam Deputy Clerk, do we have any new business for today, or council, do we have any new business? No, nothing? Very good. Okay. This ends the open session part of our meeting. I'm going to ask for a motion to move into an in-camera meeting of council pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended for the following reasons: number 2, 5, and 6 of the Municipal Act. Who would like to do the honors? Councillor Manning is moving it. Deputy Mayor Kallenberg is seconding it. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much.